Welcome to another video episode of Soul Conversations with Mia, which is a podcast series that I created on Spotify. And I wanted to also provide people with a video version on YouTube. So this is sort of a backdoor approach to New Year's resolutions or starting that new thing on Monday. So it's called, Where Do You Want to Be 1 year from now? What do you want life to look like? Who do you want to be sharing it with? What do you want to be doing for a career? What do you want to look like physically? What do you want to achieve mentally? And just as importantly, where do you not want to be 1 year from now? What do you not want life to look like? Sometimes when a client finds it really difficult to answer a question, like there's absolute crickets, there's analysis paralysis, they're trying everything in their power to figure it out in their head, I'll switch gears and I'll ask the same question, but I'll sort of come at it from the back door rather than the front door. So the subconscious, basically, instead of the conscious, where a lot of the answers actually live. Often I find that people have absolutely no idea where they want to be 1 year or 2 years or 3 years from now or from that day. But they do have a very, very clear idea of where they don't want to be. They don't want to be unhealthy, in a career they hate, living in a house that's painted pistachio green with lilac carpets, and an unhealthy partner who smokes and drinks and makes them miserable, eating ho-hos on the couch every night, binge watching Ted Lasso to drown out their misery. Sounds like fun. Although having said that, Ted Lasso might be the very best coaching series that's ever been put out. It's hilarious, has a great message every episode. So every choice we make in life matters, and every choice that we don't make also matters. We can avoid uncomfortable change, or we can go for it. We can run from our fears, or we can invite them to ride shotgun. We can procrastinate, basically inside an exercise or an excuse vacuum, or we can take the first imperfect, deliberate action step. We can wait to figure it out, or we can just start today, this moment, as you're watching this. Start making a list. I have a dear friend who's always wanted to play the guitar, and he's talked about learning to play for years, but he's never taken the first step towards learning. Maybe buying a guitar or seeking out an instructor, maybe watching some YouTube videos, buying a book. Meanwhile, several years have gone by since he initially expressed the interest of wanting to learn how to play the guitar. And by now, he probably would have been a pretty proficient player had he started when he first entertained the idea. So just remember, a year is going to go by regardless. So why not just start? I also had a client this time who was an incredible athlete, amazing athlete, talked all the time about triathlons, specifically Ironman triathlons, one of the most grueling sports in basically on the planet. And the way he talked, I mistakenly made the assumption he was a seasoned pro at participating in them all over the world. It wasn't until we established his first project that he wanted to tackle while we were working together that he chose doing a triathlon. Needless to say, I was blown away by the fact that he hadn't ever done an event, and equally by the fact I made such a massive assumption that he had. So through the process of our coaching, he hired a triathlon training coach as well, alongside the work we were doing together. He set his sights on a specific event, and he registered, and he completed the event, and then went on to participate in various endurance events regularly. So imagine if he'd spent the 20 years he talked about participating in them actually doing them. He harbored so much regret and shame and guilt for not challenging himself starting at a much younger, especially because he was such a gifted athlete. So just a reminder that shame and guilt and regret come at a very, very high price. So where do you not want to be in 1 year or 2 years? Stuck in the same career or job or town or relationship? Maybe still carrying those pesky additional 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds you keep talking about, or procrastinating on that education you keep thinking about. Or maybe you're still thinking about that yoga teacher training that you keep researching, or that podcast series you keep dreaming about creating, or that event that you watch every single year, but you never register even though you long to. What's stopping you from making that dream or that wish a reality? Is it fear? Is it time? Is it money? Maybe it's all three very often. So let's tackle each one of those one at a time. Fear is typically the biggest hurdle to making your current reality your desired reality. There's the ever popular fear of failing or not being good enough or losing friends along the way. Well, there is equally as popular, but a little more understated, fear of change and discomfort and the unknown. But don't forget, there's also the fear of losing or it not working out. Perhaps the ugly, bruising fear of judgment or criticism or rejection. Or maybe it's something less popular, like the fear of travel or getting lost or being homesick. What's the fear that you have that typically has you stop before you even start? This is your first step on the journey of exploring where you do and don't want to be heading down the road. Creating an awareness around that fear and then deciding, what do I want to do about that? The amazing thing about fear is that we create it. Our thoughts are the driving force behind each of our fears, and we make them real with our thinking. We believe our fear stories even when they hold no truth. And the more we believe our fear stories, the more we look for evidence to substantiate the story, to ensure that the story is in fact true, even if it isn't. We use fear to disable our progress and our potential and our possibilities. We use fear as a ginormous excuse for procrastinating and hiding and quitting and mindless distraction that keeps us from the thing we desire more than anything. We use fear to disable ourselves or enable ourselves, depending on how you want to look at it. We use fear to avoid friendships and intimacy and applying for that job or that promotion. And fears are thoughts. And those thoughts create very specific emotions that hold us prisoner from the experiences in life we desire. All of it is energy, heavy, dense energy. So the fear of failing might create the heavy emotion of anxiety. The fear of taking time away from family might create the heavy emotion of guilt. The fear of not being good enough might create the heavy emotion of shame or sadness or depression. The fear of rejection might create the heavy emotions of resentment or confusion or discouragement. And all of these emotions have the capacity to scare us into staying stuck, wishing, hoping, and dreaming without any doing, without any action, without any accountability. They also attract the same vibrational frequency of more lack, more sadness, more discouragement, and so on. So the next big hurdles that often get in the way of creating what we want or don't want, in this case, are time and money. Each holds similar beliefs based on our experiences in life to date. They are both energies, and we decide what kind of energy they hold. Heavy or light, positive and negative, good and bad, lack or abundance, hard or easy, one day down the road or now. Your story around time and money will create your relationship to and your experience with both of these energies. And like energies are attracted to each other. Lack attracts lack, and abundance attracts abundance. If you always watched your parents struggling with money or talking about money like it's a negative thing that causes pain and suffering, chances are you will hold a similar story and a similar energy around that money. If you struggle with there never being enough time in the day or the week, or time just goes by so fast, or time evaporates, or if you just had a little bit more time, then there will be a vibrational frequency of lack that actually creates the reality of never enough time. When in fact, every one of us has 24 hours in a day. how we choose to use it. It's about priorities. So how we prioritize everything in life determines where we're successful and where we struggle. What we have, what we don't have, what we get, what we don't get. We can prioritize health or Netflix. We can prioritize being debt-free or scrolling Amazon, or buying new runners to start a walking program, or that really funky, cool pair of dress shoes, dress boots, or drinking wine with friends on Wednesday nights instead of going to a yoga class. Maybe buying new throw pillows, seasonal throw pillows. How many throw pillows do you need? I know, lots. Or you could buy a 3-month gym membership. You could spend time zombie scrolling, which is scrolling with no destination in mind, or walking in the forest with no destination in mind. People always have enough time and enough money for what is most important to them. Think of skip the dishes. And often how they prioritize is in support of chasing pleasure and running from pain, even if the latter is in service of growth, awareness, and ultimately happiness. It's difficult to look in the mirror and face the stuff that's in our way. It's easier to watch Netflix, have a glass of wine, and hit buy on Amazon. It really is. I get it. There's absolutely no price tag that we can put on happiness or on our health or on our personal growth or on healthy relationships or on our desired realities. These things are all hard work. They take time and commitment and, yes, money. They're often challenging and tumultuous, and they're worth every tear, every second, and every cent. So how does coaching help someone who's ready to tackle the changes they desire? This isn't an episode about coaching. I often get asked, what exactly is coaching? That's a good question, because I didn't even know before I got into the industry. So how does it actually work? I get asked this a lot, and sometimes I find the answer to be a bit of a loaded question, or a bit of a loaded question because of the industry. So I would start by saying that it really depends on the coach's training, their education, their background. I've met many coaches who have either no formal training or perhaps a weekend course. Or even scarier, they haven't been able to fix or rescue themselves, so they figure they will fix or rescue other people. And this will resonate with some of you. As of now, coaching is a completely unregulated industry, meaning anyone can call themselves a coach, even if they have absolutely no training. If they have a skill set they are good at, they can call themselves an XYZ coach, like a writing coach or a business coach or a health coach or a spiritual coach or an outhouse coach or a line drawing coach or whatever. And it's all fine and good to have a strong skill set to bring to the world of coaching, but there's a big difference between a consultant and a coach, unless, of course, you are in fact both. For one thing, a qualified and educated coach, this is very important, will always meet you where you are at, not where they think you should be. And a great coach will never tell the client what to do, often to the frustration of the client. This is a consultant's job, to tell the client what to do, not a coach. Although there are times that a coach may also be asked to consult if they have the skill set. For example, I with clients over the years who hired me based on my background in the health and fitness industry, which was what I did for 35 years prior to transitioning into coaching. And at times they would ask me, based on my experience, how would I do XYZ? In that scenario, I would always have to ask permission. Can I remove my coach hat and put on my consultant hat? Because as a coach, I won't tell them what to do. It's not my job. It's my job to ask questions that allow them to figure out what it is that they want to do. But as a consultant, I might have the answer they're looking for simply based on experience. So an experienced and qualified coach creates a container for a client to systematically explore the hurdles that predictably derail their experiences in life. And they do this by asking questions for which they have no answer to. knowing full well that the client does have the answer, because no matter how smart we think we are as coaches, what the coach thinks the answer is simply the answer that is right from the perspective of the coach through the lens of their experiences, which may or may not be anything like the client's. As well, a great coach hangs out in the present to the future, not the past. Yes, we get that stuff has happened in the past. What we want to know is, what do you want to do about that today? If you want to hang out back there and dissect the traumas or the situations, that likely falls more on a therapy spectrum. And again, there are amazing therapists out there that are also trained as a coach, which is amazing, because then they have the whole spectrum of skill set. So my job is to follow the word crumbs that the client drops and use them to ask questions that the answers to are often hiding in their blinders. And a great coach is only able to coach up to their blinders. In other words, if the coach and the client both have the same issue hiding in their blinders, let's say it's procrastination, and the coach has not done their work around procrastination, then the relationship is going to stall because the coach hasn't worked through that issue. That's why it's so important for a coach to also have a coach. So what is my education? Well, that's a bit of a convoluted question. I would say I have a BA and an MA in terms of the amount of time and money I've spent on my coaching education. From California to New York, from Australia to Kansas, and many in between. And I use all the different forms of education to help others scale their personal and professional lives by identifying and facing their fears while embracing uncomfortable change. And I do this with humor and grace. I walk with the client basically into the darkness, choosing to walk into the darkness so they can enter their golden shadow to heal. I am an accountability partner, a cheerleader, a devil's advocate. Ooh, I like that one. That one's fun. And sometimes I'm a human pillow. And yes, it does cost money, just like a counselor or a therapist or a consultant. But I also can say it's worth every cent. So how much money? Well, I guess that depends on where you live in the world based on your currency. If you'd like to explore what that looks like, you can always hop on a connection call with me and I will share with you how it works. Keeping in mind, I am not a salesperson. I'm not going to try to sell you on anything at all. I will simply be there to share information and enroll you in the life that you're craving and haven't been able to create it on your own. So just let me just put it out there. If this resonates with you and you're tired of excuses, or you're tired of trying to figure it out, basically using YouTube or Instagram or your best friend, then maybe you're ready to do this dance finally and to create magic, in which case I am so totally ready for you too. So thanks for making it all the way through this recording, and I cannot wait to meet you. Have an amazing day and get started today on whatever that goal, that intention, that resolution is. Start today.